Chris Marlin, president of Lennar International. Sure. So Lennar International is the global engagement arm of Lennar. We're responsible for connecting Lennar to buyers and financing sources and other capital sources all around the world.
Okay.
You know, we do three things. We help connect Lennar to people who want to buy Lennar homes in America or buy homes in America. We execute on Lennar's immigrant investor programs, which are called EB-5 programs. And then we source foreign capital for the Lennar system. So again, whether that's debt or equity, new joint venture partners, long-term strategic projects that Lennar has in its system, helping all of the other businesses in the Lennar system, in addition to the home builder, connect with people around the world. So we do all of that every day. So we do a little bit of that every day, all over the world. So I'm not sure there is a typical day, but we obviously are extremely involved with and understanding global real estate trends, global capital trends, understanding the effects of geopolitical issues on the American real estate environment, understanding and being able to predict how fluctuations in currency exchange rates will drive different kinds of capital behaviors. So every day there's just a lot of thinking and doing. So we have to do a lot of thinking about our target countries all over the world, and how what's happening in those countries might relate to U.S. residential real estate. And then we are constantly communicating with those people about what their needs are, about what their desires are, and hopefully selling them homes. In San Francisco, Lennar is responsible for redeveloping 2 closed military bases. Both are United States Navy bases. One is called Treasure Island, and the other one is called Hunters Point Shipyard. We call it the Shipyard now. Our EB-5 programs provide basically the financing for the horizontal infrastructure for those base redevelopment projects. And those are individual immigrant investors who are making investments at $500,000 each. Those investments are into a lender, and that lender then loans to a Lennar-related entity, funds that Lennar-related entity uses to develop those military bases and prepare them for these very large mixed-use projects of regional significance in California. They're some of the largest redevelopment projects that have been done in California since World War II. And they're extremely job intensive, so that's why they're very good for the EB-5 program, because you're talking about connecting these military bases that have basically been empty. They were abandoned by the Navy well over 45 years ago, in some instances, and reconnecting them with the city infrastructure in San Francisco, reconnecting them with, wet and dry utilities and roads and all the things that are required of a modern society that these military bases have had no connection to for such a long period of time. We're just constantly in that business of connecting Lennar to the outside world. When I say the outside world, I mean the non-U.S. world, right? The U.S. home building industry has traditionally been fairly parochial, very much focused on the domestic picture in the U.S. I know in Miami, obviously, that seems very odd to us because Miami real estate has always been so outward looking. Miami real estate has always been very much involved in the flow of commerce, certainly in the Americas, in the flow of commerce outside the U.S. But that's really not typical of most places in America. It's not typical of most home builders in America. And so, when you ask what are the things we're working on, I mean, we're constantly working day in and day out, positioning Lennar's communities here in the United States for maximum attractiveness to people abroad who are looking to either invest in the United States or have a second home here or migrate to the United States. So we're constantly doing that day in and day out. And of course, we have these strategic projects like Lennar's very long-term programs in San Francisco and other places around the United States where Lennar has made long-term investments, and we are helping Lennar capitalize those investments and ensure that Lennar's shareholders are getting the most value for Lennar's involvement there. Volatility. It's such a volatile time all around the world right now. We see this obviously in the United States. There's some measure of increased volatility, at least with respect to the rhetoric coming out of Washington these days. And sometimes that rhetoric can create confusion in places around the world. But we're much less concerned about that and much more concerned about the people in the markets around the world that we are constantly communicating with. And so, it's a tremendously volatile and really severe and desperate time in Venezuela right now. The European elections and the upcoming French elections are captivating much of the European continent, and you combine that with Brexit, and just yesterday we saw the UK obviously invoke Article 50 and make formal its desire to leave the European Union. The rise of the right in Russia and Russian activities around Eastern Europe, and in particular the Baltics and Crimea, injects volatility into that eastern region of NATO. The United States pulling out of the TPP and thus creating a significant opportunity for global engagement for China. The ASEAN countries in that region, primarily in Southeast Asia, dealing with China's interests in the South China Sea vis-a-vis the Philippines and Vietnam and what they want to achieve in that region. North Korea and what North Korea has been pursuing with respect to its nuclear weapons program. And the list goes on and on. It's an extremely volatile time in sort of global geopolitical parlance. And we're on top of that every day and every night for our buyer populations, right? Because they have different needs than one another. Their needs are in part driven by what's happening or right around them in their own neighborhoods, in their own country. And so we have to be able to communicate with them about those needs and then help them solve their problems and help them find opportunity in the U.S. Mm-hmm. Well, we're constantly attempting to keep pace with the growth of Lennar and ensure that we're contributing to the overall growth of Lennar, both the home builder and other companies inside the Lennar system. So we're constantly looking for new ways to engage with our foreign customers, whether that's by having very attractive foreign national lending programs and working with Lennar's mortgage company, UAMC, and in Eagle Mortgage. And we're working constantly to make sure that there are competitive mortgage programs for foreign nationals through the Lennar system, working with our home builder partners and divisions all across the country to ensure that their communities are well positioned globally to be as attractive to foreign buyers as they can possibly be. We are constantly working with our title company to ensure that they have best practices that make the buying process simpler and easier for foreign buyers. And just making sure that we're involved with all aspects of the Lennar system to create the conditions for positive outcomes with our buyers, and that's all part of a growth strategy, right?